many votes there'll be, but one thing for sure, they'll never keep us quiet again. It is so wonderful to come visit with a crowd with so much enthusiasm. One of the rules that I've always applied to myself has been that over the years, 30 years or so that I have been talking about these issues, is that I always had a rule that if you're involved and you spend time and the energy promoting this cause, that you ought to have a lot of fun doing it. It sounds like you're having a lot of fun. Probably today, like almost every day, I get several questions about, what is it that brings people together? Why are they excited? Why do the young people join this campaign? And I tell them I don't know exactly why, because I ask constantly about it, and I get different answers, but generally it boils down to the fact that people love freedom. Freedom means the government ought to get out of the way, get off our back and out of our wallet and leave us alone. And the obvious reason why this is a message of hope is the fact that free people are much more capable of taking care of themselves than a government could ever do, Whenever the government takes over the role of trying to make us better people or making the economy better or trying to deal with the whole world, they can't do it unless they undermine our personal liberty. Then they undermine the very essence of where production comes from and where wealth comes from and where satisfaction comes from. So this to me is a wonderful, beautiful message. There's no reason why we shouldn't be hopeful today but hopeful tomorrow, because we've had great traditions. We have been blessed to live in this country because this has been the freest and the most prosperous country ever. Of course, the reason that so many of us are motivated is because although we may be doing well and surviving and we're prosperous enough to have a decent standard of living, if you just look carefully and look at the underpinnings of the society, whether it's the economic society, the moral society, as well as our foreign policy, the monetary system and the tax system, they realize that this can't continue. You can't borrow and tax and spend and inflate prosperity. Prosperity only comes from hard work and effort. It can't come from a government that can produce nothing. All governments can do is take from one and give to another and destroy production. So under those conditions, there are no options, and that is why people come and say, this makes sense. It makes common sense. It fits a moral principle. It fits logic as far as economics is concerned, and lo and behold, it's merely following the Constitution. But the excitement today, I do not believe will end. People ask me so often, how well will you do? If you don't get a certain position, are you going to drop out? And how will you react to it? All I know is there's every reason for us not to consider dropping out regardless of what happens at all. No, we don't know what will happen today. We know what has happened this past week. The last week of our campaign, just recently, is we have found out that we have gained more supporters over the internet than ever before. And we've had the best fundraising week than we ever had so far. We haven't had the richest campaign, but we have had the hardest working, most enthusiastic, dedicated group of people who know and understand it's worth the effort. It's worth the effort to fight for liberty and understand our traditions. You know, they wonder why young people come to the campaign, but when we talk about allowing young people to get out of the system, for instance, let them get out of Social Security if they want to. At the same time, we have an answer that we need not throw anybody out in the streets, but there's one thing we have to do. We have to save money because we want to cut back on the size and scope of government. We want to cut back on the spending. We want to cut down on the deficit. And there's one way we can do this because we can literally save hundreds of billions of dollars by changing one policy, and that's changing the foreign policy and bringing our troops home.